All right, Texas in the Civil War, growth of a frontier state. Following annexation in 1845, the state of Texas grew rapidly. Texas was a frontier. This means Texas was the farthest part of a settled country. It was next to land that had not been settled yet. Many people continued to settle this frontier state. They were immigrants from Europe and settlers from other states in the United States. They all wanted to buy cheap Texas land. They wanted the chance to be successful. All of the new settlements caused problems for the American Indians who had lived in Texas for centuries. Settlers took over land, settlers killed buffalo and other animals, and the American Indians depended um, on for food. Settlers built communities on land that was special to the American Indians. Many native tribes were mad and attacked the settlers. The groups didn't live peacefully with each other for many years. Slavery in Texas. Many people who came to Texas made their money by farming. Some of these farmers had very large farms known as plantations, and here crops were produced to sell. Many of the workers on these farms and plantations were enslaved African Americans. People in slavery had no rights or freedoms. They could not leave their landowner's farm without permission, and landowners considered the slaves their property. They were bought and sold and forced to work very hard. Some of the some of the enslaved people worked in homes or businesses. Most of them worked from sun up to sundown in the dirty, hot fields. A few of these enslaved people were able to escape, and they traveled secretly to places where slavery was not allowed in the northern United States. As farms and plantations grew, landowners made lots of money. They also needed lots of people to work in the fields. These landowners brought more and more enslaved African Americans to work in Texas. And by 1860, about 1 of every 4 people in Texas was enslaved. The United States divides. Not everyone in the United States agreed slavery was right. Landowners in the South said that they needed slaves to run their farms. They said that they could not make money without these workers. But many people, especially those in the northern states, said all humans should be free. They did not think it was right for people to own other people. There were even people in Texas who were against slavery. The states were divided on other issues as well. Northern states believed all states should follow the nation's laws, and people in the South disagreed. They thought all states should have the right to nullify or reject laws they didn't like. Abraham Lincoln became the President of the United States in 1860. He did not believe in slavery. Some Southerners were afraid he would pass a national law to end slavery, and these Southern states began to talk about separating from the Northern states. Texas succeeds. The state of South Carolina was the first Southern state to succeed or separate from the United States. 6 other states quickly followed. Texas seceded from the United States on March 2, 1861, and these 7 states formed a new country. They called it the Confederate States of America. 4 other states later joined the Confederacy, and the group elected a president. His name was Jefferson Davis. People in the Confederacy were upset with the remaining northern states. Those states were now called the Union. People in the Union were very upset that the Confederate States had succeeded. First shot at Fort Sumter. On April 12, 1861, Confederate troops fired at a Union fort at Fort Sumter in South Carolina. The Civil War had begun. The war between the northern and the southern states lasted 4 long, bloody years, and General Robert E. Lee was the main Confederate general. Ulysses S. Grant was the general of the Union troops. Texans in the war. About 90,000 Texan soldiers fought in the Civil War. Most of them were on the side of the Confederacy, but there were some Union soldiers from Texas. Brave Texas fought in every battle of the war. Texans fought in units that traveled by foot called infantries, and others fought in cavalries or horseback units. Texans who did not join the military stayed at home to help. Many people kept running farms and businesses, and women made uniforms, tents, blankets, and bandages. Many women also worked in hospitals nursing injured soldiers. Texas battles. Texan soldiers were most proud of the fact that Union soldiers were never able to take over their state. but Union ships were able to blockade or block ships from coming into ports. The Gulf of Mexico. This kept the Confederates from getting fresh supplies. In 1862, the Union captured the port at Galveston Harbor, and within months, the Confederates took it back. Several other battles took place in Texas. In September 1863, 4,000 Union soldiers tried to capture the Sabine Pass, and although only 60 Confederate soldiers fought against them, the Union was not successful. The Confederates, led by 25-year-old Lieutenant Dick Dowling, used canyon fire to force back the Union's incoming ships. On April 9, 1865, after nearly 4 years of fighting, the Confederacy surrendered. Unfortunately, the news of the surrender did not reach Texas troops for some time. On May 13, 1865, they fought the last battle of the Civil War at the Battle of Palmetto Ranch near Brownsville. Even though the Confederates had lost the war, the Texas troops won this last battle.